Tonight, warnings as more snow and ice are set to hit Scotland. With schools about to return and vulnerable people struggling to heat their homes, we'll look at what's being done to prepare for the worst. US President Biden promises a zero-tolerance approach to terrorism as New Orleans tries to recover from this week's deadly attack. And a health warning for Scotland's water of life as climate change impacts the whisky production process. Scotland is bracing for what's promising to be the most severe cold snap of the winter so far, with warnings in place for snow and ice over the weekend and into Monday. The weather is already proving challenging for the emergency services, with 3 walkers needing rescued from the Cairngorms last night, and with fears that the country's travel network may struggle to cope with the conditions, a fleet of more than 70 gritters is being deployed nationwide this evening. Aileen Clark has the latest on preparations for the big freeze.
It was a long, hard night in dreadful conditions for Braemar Mountain Rescue Team, who headed for the northern end of the Larrig Grue in the Cairngorms. 3 walkers had found themselves in difficulties after nightfall and in plummeting temperatures.
The helicopter was able to ferry in about 4 loads of our team in from the south up to sort of into the lower part of the Larrig Grue, and they were then able to walk up to where the walkers were. Over the next kind of couple of hours, we had about 20 people out on the hill able to get up to where the 3 of them were. Getting them sorted out, getting them warm enough to be able to basically then be able to walk back out to the vehicles.
Plenty to bear in mind for others still keen to venture out into the hills this weekend in wintry conditions.
And it is appreciating, I guess, that as you go higher up and further into the hills, it will be really pretty unpleasant at this time of year, and you've got to be prepared for that.
The railways are still having some issues. They've managed to reopen the line between Perth and Inverness after flooding like this near Canusie. But they are still working on clearing the landslips from the line north of Inverness. Now, if you decided to take advantage of the dry, sunny weather today to come out for a walk, you will be well aware that it's very icy, dicey underfoot. And what you need to know is there's a lot more of this ice on the way.
Come here, baby. Yeah, good girl.
The Met Office ice warning no surprise to Jacob, out with his dog Lucy, who even with 4 paws was slipping.
I don't want to break my leg. My wife broke her leg slipping on ice 3 years ago. It's not funny.
He wasn't alone in Glasgow today.
A walk that would normally take us just half an hour is taking us about an hour and a half. It's just really quite treacherous underfoot.
More than ice to contend with in Aberdeenshire, here in West Hill, Arthur was busy clearing the snow, and more showers may well be on the way.
Well, I've been clearing the snow from a drive and the front door as well. I've done my neighbour's as well because he's elderly, and now I'm just about finished clearing the driveway. But yeah, it's tough. There's quite a lot of snow there.
At Cairngorm Mountain, the skiers are relying on man-made snow at the moment, but there was optimism the next weather front coming in might benefit the slopes.
I've been looking forward to it all year, you know.
Yeah, we've been waiting a while because pretty much as soon as we got the boards, just waiting for the day. Yeah. And it's the forecast is looking good, so we're hoping to get right up the top within the next week.
Aileen Clark, BBC News.
President Biden says the US will relentlessly pursue the Islamic State group and other terrorist organisations wherever they are. It's after the FBI said an Islamic State flag was found inside the truck used in the New Orleans attack, which killed 14 people. We don't yet know the identities of all the victims, but those names so far include an aspiring nurse, the mum of a 4-year-old boy, and a former college football player. Carl Naisman reports from a city trying to bounce back from terror.
The familiar sights and sounds of New Orleans have returned less than 48 hours after an attacker turned the city's streets into a crime scene. In the face of terror, music has become an act of defiance.
This is where that attack took place on New Year's Day, and this is Bourbon Street now. New Orleans It's a city you can't keep quiet for long.
Investigators now say the suspect, Shamsuddin Jabbar, acted alone, driving a vehicle through a crowd of revelers and planting at least 2 explosives nearby. Authorities have given the all clear, but Bourbon Street is filled with fresh security measures, including newly placed barricades guarding against a future attack, but too late to prevent the last one.
Everyone is a little bit on edge, I would definitely say, but I think everyone is super appreciative to be here and for everyone to still be out, even though they just went through something so traumatic.
But people just want to don't sit in their room. They want to come out. They're trying to enjoy having drinks, trying to forget things, but they have to move on,
The community's grief is visible here too. Memorials and shrines to the victims have been appearing along this boulevard. 14 roses arranged at the entrance to Bourbon Street, one for each victim. And at Thursday's Sugar Bowl, an American college football game played nearby, 57,000 fans fell silent. President Joe Biden announced he hopes to visit the city soon after being briefed by his security team.
People in New Orleans are sending an unmistakable message. They will not let this attack or the attackers' deluded ideology overcome us. We're going to continue to relentlessly pursue ISIS and other terrorist organizations where they are, and they'll find no safe harbor here.
A potential Islamic State group attack on U.S. soil could resonate across the country. Here in New Orleans, officials say they'll be reviewing security measures ahead of upcoming Mardi Gras to make sure the music can go on.
Carl Naisman there. Now, some of the day's other news, and the father of Sarah Sharif has reportedly been attacked in prison weeks after being jailed for the 10-year-old's murder. Irfan Sharif is said to have been assaulted at Belmarsh Prison on New Year's Day by 2 other inmates using the lid of a tuna can. The 43-year-old apparently suffered cuts and received medical treatment inside the prison. Several properties have been evacuated and a major road in Argyll and Butte closed after a lorry crashed into a gas main in the early hours of this morning. The collision happened at Cowell Kirk, south of Dunoon, just before 5:30. The A815 has been closed. The damage to the pipe means that gas supplies have been isolated to approximately 40 houses. Now, a look at one of Scotland's biggest exports, whisky, and the impact that climate change is having on it. Distilleries and producers are taking steps in response to the threat it poses to their businesses, with an emphasis on water usage and the barley being used. Ian Hamilton reports.
Is Scotland's whisky industry future-proofed? Distillers know they're not immune to a changing climate. Here at Glengoyne, they've long been aware of the need to innovate.
What's in front of us is our 2 distillations, and we'll go through it behind. Right. We're very energy intensive, Ian. We still are, because you're heating up all the time, heating up and cooling down. It costs a lot of money to heat water, it costs a lot of money to cool down liquids. So the industry is really focused front and centre on sustainability.
For every step of the process, it's all about the water.
We can bring in technology at the distilleries which enables to use less water, but the farmer, he can't make it rain. So really the big issue, I think, is probably more at the very beginning of the process in the field.
Barley is pretty resilient, but scientists in Scotland are looking to make more robust strains.
You can feel the head there, and you can feel the awns, and this is just before flowering, and at some point we'll be able to cross these with each other. You need to have a variety that can cope with extremes in stress, so it can go from being droughted in one condition to later in the season being waterlogged, as we've seen in, like last year, for example. It was very dry in spring and then became very wet towards the end of the year.
Rob, I can hear a trickle over here. What is that?
What you're hearing is just some water dribble into our effluent tank.
Back at the distillery, Robbie has created a wetland to naturally clean wastewater.
It takes about 3 days for this liquid to meander its way through all of these different wetlands. So by the time we get to the very bottom of the process, it's as clear as looking at water. This is the outlet for the wetlands, Ian. If I was to hold up that and a bottle of water side by side and say which came out of the tap and which came out of a wetland system from a whisky distillery at Glengoyne, I think you'd probably be struggling to tell one of the parts. I mean, that's actually crystal clear.
This is all about protecting one of Scotland's major industries and ensuring there is no parting glass for one of our major exports. Ian Hamilton, BBC News.
OK, moving to sport now. And Celtic are in talks with Arsenal about signing their former defender Kieran Tierney on a pre-contract deal. Tierney left Celtic in 2019 for a reported £25 million fee. But Arsenal are ready to let the 27-year-old go at the end of his contract in 6 months' time. It remains unclear whether Arsenal will allow Tierney to leave on loan in January before making any move permanent in the summer. The SPFL has condemned the coin throwing from the Rangers support at yesterday's Old Firm match, saying it was idiotic and unacceptable, and they've asked for any witnesses to come forward. Celtic midfielder Arne Engels was struck by a coin during his side's 3-0 defeat at Ibrox, with police also investigating another incident. Today, a spokesperson for the league's governing bodies said that anyone found guilty of such conduct must be dealt with severely by the courts, including the imposition of football banning orders. Now, we were due to bring you tonight's championship game between Airdrie and Falkirk here on the BBC Scotland channel, but it has been called off because of a frozen pitch. And on that very subject, let's get the weather forecast now from Callum McCall.
Hello there, good evening folks. Yes, the wintry spell goes on and it will do into next week too. We've had fresh snows today in the north and northeast, raw in those gusty northwesterly winds. Elsewhere, some winter sunshine to enjoy, but also cold. Ice out there will become more extensive into tonight. A country-wide yellow warning for ice from the Met Office right through the night and into tomorrow. So clear skies, temperatures are tumbling away out there. We'll see widespread frost and ice once more. Showers up the west coast, mainly rain here, but overnight they tend to expand further inland as they do so, falling as sleet and snow, further accumulations where they come in. Coldest where it's clearest throughout the night in the east and northeast, maybe -6 in a few spots, less cold towards the west coast and the Hebrides. Into tomorrow, a more benign pattern, a slack pressure pattern, still some coastal showers, mainly of rain at sea level, and we'll see the best of the winter sunshine the further east and northeast you go. So into tomorrow then, slippery start out there. Watch out if you're going out onto the pavement, some untreated roads too, and we'll have still some showers draped around coastal areas, mainly rain, a wee bit sleet to sea level, but on the higher ground, still wintry. Look at the numbers by afternoon. 3s, 4s, towns and cities, so still cold, and we'll have an extensive veil of upper level clouds spreading from the south as the afternoon wears on, limiting the sunshine more by afternoon to parts of Caithness, Murray and into Aberdeenshire itself. And watch out for this front threatening more longer spells of rain into the Northern Isles. Wintry for Shetland still. As we push into Sunday, this is a troublemaker, this low pressure area, how far it extends north and thus how extensive the snowfall will be. The greatest risk of snowfall across southern Scotland, and then as that clears, it stays cold right through next week. This is the Met Office warning for that snow, a yellow warning covering much of the mainland, but the greatest risk of that snowfall the further south and east you go within that warning. So here's Sunday then, we've got that snow through the morning expanding into southern Scotland, really blowing around in those gusty winds. Could see 10-20 centimetres over the southern uplands itself, perhaps expanding into central and then northeastern Scotland as the day wears on. Mainly just rain towards the east coast with the onshore wind and clearest in the northwest.
Callum, thank you for that. Trouble certainly on the way if you're heading out and about. We'll have all your travel and weather news on BBC Radio Scotland and on BBC News Online from all of us. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye for now.